Do you and I'm only partially kidding with this question, but like, so you get a sense of all the stuff coming in. You probably get some trail camera pictures and stuff. Are there any that don't make it out to the website? You just kind of,
Certainly, by the way, certainly the team all book stuff on LandTrust. Like I've booked, I think I'm still probably number one for number of bookings, just because I think it's really important as a founder to use your own product and
nice. Yeah.
constantly do that. Uh, no, we never short stop inventory. Although we do book stuff, like you see stuff come in, yeah. But frankly, this was the other reason why we designed field notes, because we we see pictures getting passed back in text message and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, let's just put this out because this is the stuff we want to know.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Fair Chase podcast. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're enjoying your winter. I know I'm sick of it here in Michigan. And just hoping you're enjoying the mountain lion film that we just came out with. So, looking forward to hearing your feedback on that. And hopefully you send it to 10 of your friends, and then those 10 friends send it to 10 of theirs, and keep doing that. It'd really do us a solid if you did that. But we have a special guest today, Nick DeCastro of LandTrust. Nick, welcome to the episode. How are you?
Yeah, appreciate you having me on, James. Doing well. My winter is not like yours anymore. So I moved down to coastal Alabama. So it's a little chilly today, but it's nice and sunny. I was out walking.
Like, when you say chilly, like, what is chilly for coastal Alabama?
40s. So
I mean, it's not warm.
no, I think we're kind of like, this is cold, It did snow here a couple of weeks ago, and it was the first time apparently it snowed that much since the late 1800s. So
Oh, really?
yeah.
Take that, global warming.
Yeah, school shut down for a whole week. It snowed like 4
No way.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
That's kind of awesome,
Yeah.
actually.
Well, it's not awesome when you have your 3 kids at home. You're supposed to be working, but
Right.
the snow was cool. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just running around. Yeah. Well, it's been cold enough where I'm literally wearing the double
See that?
zipper. I've been cold, man. It's actually, today's not so bad, but it's just, and it's finally a normal winter for us in Michigan. But at normal winter you get sick of. I'll just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, I mean, I've just spent the last 9 years in Bozeman, and yeah, you get to the 5th month of winter, you're like, okay, I think we're good.
about enough of that.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, Nick, you founded LandTrust. For people who don't know, what is LandTrust?
Sure. So LandTrust is a land sharing marketplace for outdoor recreation. Said another way, a lot of people describe us like Airbnb for booking do it yourself, like hunting, fishing, camping, just outdoor stuff on private land. So essentially, people use LandTrust to find access to private land to go do their favorite activities outside.
Yeah, totally cool idea. I mean, how'd you get this idea? You're kind of an entrepreneurial guy, I know, but like, how'd this come to mind?
Yeah, so I spent background myself. I grew up in Southern California, at the beach, and grew up like hunting and fishing, surfing, spearfishing, all the fun stuff outdoors. Um, and then I spent most of my 20s in technology after school. Um, and when I moved to Bozeman at the end of 16, I kind of immediately was confronted with what today is LandTrust. So um, I had been a host on Airbnb's platform in 2010, like pretty early in New York City when I was living there. And yeah, I was a traveling sales guy, so I was never in my apartment, and I was paying ridiculous amount of money for this apartment. And so I had become a host, and I was like, wow, this is cool. The sharing economy is awesome. I'm paying for my rent while I'm traveling, and I'm not using this thing. Someone else can use it. So, when I moved to Montana at the end of 16, Montana has tons of public land, which is awesome. Great resource. Yeah, I enjoyed a lot of it. But I was still looking around town and being like, wow, there's some amazing private land, ranches and farms and stuff around town I'd love to have access to. And really the only way to do it is go door knocking on people's doors. I have done that. I'm sure all of us have. It's not that great. I'm a sales guy. I'm not like shy, but I still don't enjoy knocking on a stranger's door. No, I just don't. And as much as I probably don't enjoy it, they probably don't enjoy it more because there's more people like you and me who want to go knock on that door. We're not the only people that might have seen that deer out there or a flock of turkeys or whatever. So anyways, it just seemed like kind of a bit of a broken model. And so, yeah, I said, hey, like I've experienced this sharing economy before with Airbnb and some of these other platforms that we've used. And I think this model could work here. There's supply, which is our landowners, and then there's obviously demand, which I was. I was a hunter who was willing, or a fisherman who's willing to pay for the day to go out and enjoy that property or the weekend or whatever. So that's how it started.
Yeah, this episode is brought to you by 2O Gear, innovators in technical hunting clothing. 2O is a newer company. It's based right here in Michigan, and whether you're hunting elk in the mountains or chasing antelope in the plains or traipsing through swamps after that ruddy buck, 2O has you covered with premium jackets and pants, merino wool layers, everything you could possibly need to stay comfortable in the woods. Their products are engineered for functionality and durability, ensuring you stay protected in any conditions. Plus, their camo is really effective. We're big fans. So don't take our word for it, though. Go to 2ogear.com and check it out. And it just seems like there is this, I mean, it's an interesting gap in the hunting outdoor space, fishing, lots of public land, but people who spend time on public land, like I do,
Yep.
there's challenges to it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not usually known for having the same quality of hunting a lot of times because you're competing with other people. And so it's nice to find a way to get away from that, or at least to just kind of narrow down the pressure. But on the flip side, uh, access to private land is different than it was even when I was a kid. Yeah, when I was a kid, like I just hunted anywhere and
Yeah, it was not a
no one cared.
Yeah, totally.
You know,
That's changed a lot. And I think we're roughly the same. I'm 37. I don't know how old you are, but
36, yeah.
yeah, so we're about the same age. Yeah, it was, it definitely was different. I always say, like, I wouldn't have started LandTrust if every door you knocked on, you just got a, big
Right.
thumbs up and go get them. It's just like, it's just changed a lot. And I think land ownership has changed. We've lost a lot of land that was huntable historically to development. So you have relatively same amount of demand, but a shrinking supply, and it just makes more competition. And yeah, it's just changed a lot.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just more expensive and more
Mhm.
just just harder. All
Totally.
right, well, you kind of said how it works, but
Yeah.
explain how you do this. How does this go?
Sure. So, if you go on landtrust.com, you can, it'll look and feel kind of probably familiar to folks, but you can search by state, by species. We're just about to roll out in the next week where you can search something like, Montana elk hunting in Unit 411. And you'll see all of our listings that have elk hunting opportunities in Unit 411. So you can do search by quite a few different things. And we're not just hunting, we do have fishing and camping and farm and ranch experiences. You can book a branding with your family if you want to go like to a cattle branding on a real ranch and stuff like that. So there's other outdoor activities. But yeah, you can go on and search. You look at listings and different packages. These profiles look very familiar to like Airbnb or other platforms like this. So a lot of photos and reviews from people who've booked it, pricing, calendars, all that stuff, right? And you can connect directly with landowners before you go to make a booking request. So if you have questions, you find something that's interesting, you can just contact the landowner and send them a message and talk to them and, find out whatever you need to find out to feel comfortable making a booking.
Well, kind of selfishly is why I wanted to invite you on because I've been poking around your website, and just checking out things because I'm always we had Kevin Vistison on a couple weeks ago, and we talked about private and public land and how he's just going to refer to it as one blanket DIY whitetail hunting instead.
Totally. DIY private.
Yeah.
That's how we refer to ourselves, DIY private.
Yeah, it's right. So it's like, I just had been interested in and had been looking for this, and come across you guys and just thought, I didn't really, we had never talked,
No.
had no prior anything. And I want to find out more. I feel like this is something that at least our followers should listen to, and to understand. So I guess the other question I have is, all right, so I understand, Airbnb style, you go, you look for property, you do the whole deal. It's very similar to what we all know before, but how on the other side, how do you get landowners involved in this? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So on our landowner side, we have about 1.3 million acres today in about 42 states. It changes every week. We get new landowners. Um, Most of our landowners are owner operator production agriculture landowners. So multi-generation farm and ranch families all over the country. Not all of them. Most of them are kind of in that category. And so, over the years, that landowner is a really hard landowner to reach. They've been they can be a little bit cynical because they've been sold bad bills of goods in the past, and more their ag space. But if you do reach them and you do sit down with them and you can get them to try something new like what we do, and you deliver on your promise, like, so our landowners are not our customers, they're our business partners, right? They own this asset and we build the technology and market it, and that's our partnership. So yeah, it took some time to build, right? I'm really grateful to the first landowners who came on board when there's no landowners on board, like we we're brand new, which is really hard with marketplaces. So we're a marketplace, and it's a chicken and the egg problem to get them going, where the buyers don't want to be unless the sellers are there. Sellers aren't, so it's tough. So you have to kind of beg, borrow, and steal to get anyone to list, their properties with you. So we have some amazing landowners who've been with us since day one in Montana and some other states, and then yeah, we work with farm bureaus, we work with cattlemen's organizations, and we've grown really well since then. And honestly, now at this stage of the business, I do a lot of podcasts more in the agricultural space too. I've got
Sure.
yeah, I've got a landowner marketing manager that works with us, who's also a rancher. We call him our rancher in residence. He's based in North Carolina. So he does a lot of those agricultural podcasts too. And I know some people might think like, farmers and ranchers aren't listening to podcasts, but they really are. Everyone loves podcasts.
All that time in the tractor, man.
Totally. So we do really well from that. And 25% of all of our new landowners come from word of mouth from existing landowners, which is great.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's just see your neighbor doing it, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
what's the situation there? You're getting a little side cash coming in, and I would imagine though, yeah, like you said, to get a marketplace like that going, you got to hit like critical mass of properties at the beginning. How long did that take?
Well, we're about the website launched October 2nd of 19. So we're a little over 5 years old at this point.
Okay.
I mean, it takes time. Relatively speaking, the network effects that we're experiencing are really just starting to take off now. But I mean, last year we probably did 40% of all bookings that we've done in company history. So it's like starting to really accelerate,
Right.
which it does. It's kind of slowly and then all at once,
Yeah. Yeah, I got to imagine starting. Well, was it weird starting right? What, 5 months from when COVID like shut everything down to that?
Yeah. Yeah, it was, people were like, oh, that must have been great for you because COVID, everyone got outdoors and hunting and all that stuff. And we were babies. We weren't ready to capitalize on that sort of thing. It was interesting for sure. We were growing like doubling every month. And then, yeah, March hit and April bookings went to like 0. And if you remember, states were like shutting down cross-border hunting. So like, I remember in Nebraska, we had like turkey hunts booked in Nebraska by non-residents, and they stopped selling the licenses. So yeah, it was definitely a weird time. However, I will say, obviously COVID sucked and there's so many bad things about COVID. One of the benefits of COVID, at least from our perspective, was that farmers and ranchers started getting on like Zoom and doing, like Zoom and Google Meet and stuff like that. And so we were able to still go out and connect with them and have sort of face to face, so to speak, with farmers and ranchers now with these newer technologies at the time, especially for that cohort of people,
OnX is the title sponsor of our podcast here at the Fair Chase, and it's a must-have app for all of us who love to explore the outdoors. Whether you're hunting or hiking or fly fishing, OnX gives you detailed, accurate maps right at your fingertips. With property boundaries, topographical features, and trail data, you'll always know where you are and where you're headed. You'll also likely be able to figure out where that big buck is headed to. Plus, their offline maps mean you're covered even in the most remote locations. OnX is the ultimate tool for outdoor navigation, making every adventure safer and more enjoyable. Download OnX today and explore with confidence. Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, it's unique challenges, I would imagine. What any other things you bump up to? Any other types of challenges? Other than obviously the critical mass and the COVID stuff. Like, what other kind of bumps are there for something like this?
Yeah. So if you think about our marketplace, we deal with experiences, right? So it's about land access, and a single property, like compared to, let's just say, like compared to Airbnb, right? Airbnb is a lodging company. You have a unit of lodging, like I have a house or an apartment. It's either available or not, and it costs this much money on this date. It's very simple, kind of to match supply and demand. For us, when we bring on a new property, so let's say we bring on a new ranch in Montana, they might be wanting to host people for hunting or fishing or, a branding or a host of other things. And then you've got like, okay, for hunting, well, what do you want to offer? Well, we want to offer, elk hunting and whitetail deer hunting and mule deer hunting and bird hunting. Okay, well, what weapons, what species, what seasons, so it's just a way more complex matching problem. And you've got, and that's 50 states too. So especially when you talk about hunting, every state has its own regulations and you have all the units and stuff within those weapons, species and sex and all that stuff. It's a very complex problem compared to just like a lodging marketplace where it's like, yeah, I got a house. It's empty. It's this much money. You can book it or not.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Um, One thing I like that you've done, and I just am new to the site and have been
Yeah.
poking around, is you have the field notes section.
Yeah.
Cool idea.
Yeah, appreciate it. So for those of you who haven't checked it out, it's still it's beta. We just got it out in October, and we're still, there's a lot of work being done on it. So it's lantrust.com/field notes, and I know you have a field notes on your website too.
I feel like everybody kind of does. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? But so field notes really is, I like to kind of describe it as like Instagram for land trust land. So it's not a social thing because there's no comments or anything like that, but essentially our landowners can post about their properties. So the reason we created this is because we would watch, a lot of people contact landowners and ask the same questions. And those questions would be like, hey, have you been seeing turkeys out on the property this year? Because they're looking at booking a turkey hunt, right?
Yeah.
And so the issue is our landowners are busy people, they're farmers and ranchers, and they forget 6 inquiries from, sportsmen asking, do you have turkeys this year? Or have you seen any turkeys recently? They answer those questions in a one-to-one manner. So we said, well, this is a lot of work for them. How can we make it easier? How can we make one to many, like a broadcast? And so basically came up with field notes, which is great. That landowner can be out and like on the combine in the morning, take a video with his iPhone of a big flock of turkeys and then post it to his land trust listing. And so anyone who's following that can then see like, oh yeah, there's a bunch of turkeys out there. So it can help kind of like answer some of those questions that a sportsman may have, but also make it a lot easier on a landowner to just keep people up to date with their property. So you can follow properties. And I, selfishly, I designed this product with my team when I was in Bozeman. Before I left, we had a bunch of amazing properties, like 6 minutes from the office, right? So you just wait till like game camera photos start popping, like turkeys coming out or like, waterfowl starting to come in or the deer starting to rut. And so then you wait until you see those photos and like, all right, cool, I'm going to book now. Right.
Yeah.
And you don't have to contact the landowner and, all that stuff. It's just like, all right, there it is. Like follow this. And then I can book when I feel confident.
Are there, like how many, are there like limits to how many people like a landowner can have? Like, is it like, every that we do, 3-day things and we get, 50 of them in a year? Is there anything like that goes on?
Oh, so let me understand this. So for clarity, when you book something on LandTrust, it is your property for the duration, like you and your group, whoever's with you, it's exclusively yours. So I just want to make sure it's not like you and me are going to book the same property the same dates. Like that
Right.
can't happen. So if you and me book together, like we're part of a group, then that works that way. Yeah, landowners, and I think the other piece is like how many bookings may happen on a property for whatever. Let's take turkey hunting. We put quantities on packages and we talk to landowners a lot. So every landowner that's on LandTrust, we have onboarded them. They don't just come and list and like we never talk to them. So we onboard every single landowner.
Yep.
And we talk to them through that process and we give guidance on that. Like, hey, if you got, 80 acres and you got some pretty healthy turkey population, maybe do 3 turkey hunts this spring or something, right? And the goal here is um, sustainability of a revenue stream, really. So, the worst thing you could do is go shoot all your toms this year, and then not have a good flock for next year. So really, we talk to them and we kind of say, look, if you have this kind of population, this size property, all that kind of stuff, maybe you do 2 bookings this year for spring turkeys.
Yeah.
And then they'll sell out. So you'll see if you go and search LandTrust and you keep scrolling, you'll see sold out packages. So they're done for this year, but you can follow and book next year. So yeah, absolutely, we encourage, and frankly, because of the types of landowners that we work with who are living and working on those places, and they have for their family's been there for generations. Often they're the ones who are saying, "Hey, it's been a drought, bird population's down. We don't want to book anything this year. Like let's let the birds recover." And we see a lot of that. Whereas, traditionally, if you had gone with maybe an outfitter, and I'm not saying anything bad about outfitters, but it's a different financial model where they have paid to lease ground and they will lose money if they don't at least, sell X amount of hunts to make that money back. The incentives are very different. So in that scenario, that landowner already owns the land. They're not out anything if they don't book turkey hunts this year. It's actually in their best interest to make sure they recover that flock. Whereas if you're just leasing a piece of ground for a year and you lay that money out, like that's a different incentive. And again, we love outfitters and guides. They're great service providers. There's good ones, there's bad ones, but it's just a different financial model.
Yeah, interesting. I have a bunch of questions. When you, yeah, like for say I am new to this, never done this before. What like are there best practices or things that I should be, thinking about when I book a hunt? Because we're looking at doing a whitetail hunt and want to do something DIY.
Yep.
Want to do something that's not, maybe just see what else aside from a public land or like an outfitted hunt, because then you're not really doing it yourself when it's outfitted. Right. So what are like best practices type thing for new people?
Yeah. So first of all, everything on LandTrust is DIY. It's about access. This would have traditionally been called like a trespass fee, so to speak, right?
Right.
So you're getting direct access, exclusive access for the duration you're booking, whether it's a day or a week or whatever, from the landowners. I would say start doing some searches. I would say favorite some properties because it takes time to go through this stuff. Contact landowners. So if you find some properties in an area that you're interested in, send the landowners a couple of messages. A lot of them will pick up the phone and call you, like they're out working or whatever, and they just right. I also want to be clear, you can't just book something. Like everything is a request because that landowner's they stay totally in control. So it's not like a hotel where you're just like, cool, I like this, I'm booking it. Everything's a booking request, and they get to say yes or no to you.
Interesting. So you gotta you can't be some schlep that shows up and that sucks. And okay, do they vet you at all?
Yeah, so we have ratings. So every trip you book on LandTrust, just like other platforms, both sides rate each other after the trip. And the only ratings that show up, that you can't like have your mom rate you and give you a 5-star. Like, no, it's tied to the transaction.
That's a flip when my mom would give me a 5-star. I mean, I don't know if that's a given,
That's true. So it's not like, when you go to like other websites and, like a guide or an outfitter website, it's got all these reviews, like you have no idea if those are real or not. And again, I'm not saying anything bad, but there's no way to verify. Like with us, it's all just tied to the transaction. So there's reviews that you start to build up over time on LandTrust as you use it more. So landowners will say, oh, he's got 5-star reviews from other landowners, like good to go. But they also will talk to you, and we encourage them, like, hey, if they want to pick up the phone and just chat with you and feel you out, great. We don't discourage that. So yes, they will often talk to you and make sure they're comfortable, make sure it meets your expectations, all that kind of stuff. So contact landowners, ask any questions you have, and then you can make a booking request. Everything's on a credit card, very modern kind of experience like that. So it's really simple. If you find stuff you're interested in, you like it, follow it, so you'll get field notes updates. We'll push them to you when they post stuff, and then contact landowners and just talk to them and ask them whatever you got, whatever questions you have.
Yeah, it's a cool idea because I mean everything's just getting so expensive. So and that's because you're leasing something for 12 months out in a state that you're gonna spend sometimes like you're not even hardly out there. You're dropping $3,000 to do something or whatever, and it's like, dang, that sucks. Do you and I'm only partially kidding with this question, but so you get a sense of all the stuff coming in. You probably get some trail camera pictures and stuff. Are there any that don't make it out to the website? You just kind of,
Certainly, by the way, certainly the team all book stuff on LandTrust. Like I've booked, I'm still probably number one for number of bookings, just because I think it's really important as a founder to use your own product and constantly do that. No, we never short stop inventory. Although we do book stuff, like you see stuff come in, But frankly, this was the other reason why we designed field notes, because we see pictures getting passed back in text message and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's like, let's just put this out because this is the stuff we want to know. Like this is the stuff we're seeing internally as a team, and it's be really useful for for the customers to see. So we certainly use and book and have had a lot of success and fun on LandTrust properties. We as a team. But no, we don't ever short stop and like we're gonna lease this thing out, for the year. Don't list it.
This one's got a 180-inch buck walking around. Like, that's not going to see the light of day.
We had we had a kid in Montana kill, I mean, darn near a 200-inch mule deer's first deer on a property that I've bird hunted before, up in Stanford, Montana. And I mean, that property is $125 a day. Like, so like it was, and that same family, I think the sister killed a big mule deer closer to Bozeman. We've had close to 200-inch deer in some of our properties in Iowa for like $1,200 for a 3-day DIY hunt with lodging. So it is affordable. Like if you look at it, yes, public land is free to go to, of course. However, if you find a bunch of like crowded public land and you're driving 1,000 miles, like, is it free? It's free to walk on our property, but you're spending a lot of money and time.
Well, you're walking, driving around. Man, I can't even.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Than that, yeah.
Yeah, we've all been there. And hey, at the right stage of life, it doesn't really matter, right? If you're, single in your 20s, like dirt bagging out of the back of your truck, like it's a blast.
Whatever. Get all the time in the world.
I am not in that stage of life. I have 3 little girls, 5 and under, and a business. Like it just, time is a premium. But, if you look at from a pricing perspective, if you wanted to hunt private land, here's the options. You own it. You're married into it, which I didn't, unfortunately. You buy, you go buy it, you lease it for a year, or you use an outfitter. Or you door knock and maybe 1 out of 10 hits, so you spend time doing that. So for sure, LandTrust is probably the cheapest, other than just door knocking and, seeing if you get lucky like that, is the cheapest way to kind of access. And you can look, we have, you can go turkey hunt often for $100 a day or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
there are expensive. Hey, if it's an elk hunt in a prime unit with great bulls, yeah, those are going to be more expensive, but just like anything else, right?
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's really affordable. You can take your kids fishing for $25 a day at a farm pond on LandTrust. So it expands the gamut.
Lamb some bass. That'd be sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing because like land access has become such a big issue that, I mean, so many people are saying so many different things. I mean, we had a guy on, Matt Ranella, maybe 2 years ago or something. He's I've been quite outspoken about certain things, which was an interesting episode.
Yeah.
But again, he's very upset about land access and very opinionated.
Did you?
That was a lot of time.
Do you know Robbie from Blood Origins?
No, I never met him.
Oh, well, I'll introduce you to Robbie. He's awesome. He's fantastic. And you were talking about your lion film. I'll connect you guys because you guys should talk regardless. Great guys. But Robbie had a series of podcasts between he and I, because he's very much doesn't like what we do, and that's fine. It's his perspective. But yeah, so I'm familiar.
Matt, he doesn't like what you do?
No.
Make access easier? Like, the heck, man? What do you want for free?
Always and forever is kind of that perspective. And look, man, I'm for private property rights. I think private property rights are like the cornerstone of the American dream. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, when a landowner, I mean, I have to be equally excited when a landowner says, no one's allowed to hunt and access my place. Everyone's allowed to hunt and access my place. I'm going to go with a state program like Block or WEHA or stuff like that, or I'm going to list with LandTrust, like, because those are all them exercising their property rights. Yeah. So I'm for property rights. I hunt block management, state run access programs, which are, by the way, it's the state paying landowners for hunting access. Ours is more just a private market where you just pay for your own access, right? Exactly. It's all kind of the same, and I like it all. I'm for it all. I think access is a 3-legged stool, and there's going to be, federal government lands, the state lands. There's going to be state-run programs for access on private land. There's going to be private market solutions like us. I happen to think that the private market's where all the scale is going to come from, just because that's how it works in every other category. But I want them all. Like, they all play their roles.
Well, they all have incentives to. If you do it right, they all have. There's always an incentive to manage it well, because you're attracting business in some sense. And so, like, I mean, to me, it's just diversity is the best name of the game. The more the mentions, then you have better, more spread out use, and everybody's kind of motivated in their own way to have good land. So, I don't know. It seems like a great idea, and it seems like a win for everybody, even people who aren't using LandTrust, honestly.
Right, because if you look at it, hunting is a zero-sum game, right?
Yeah.
So, on a Saturday in your region, and there's 1,000 people who are going to go hunt. If 500 of them are on private, that means 500 of them aren't on public. Right. So it's like, it is. Even if you're a diehard public land hunter, you should love land trust because we're taking that pressure that day onto private land that moves animals around and like they're not on your spot. Like, yeah, it's a good thing.
Well, and everybody finds ways to cope with the public land crowd. Like, mine has been your classic something like a Tuesday morning hunt, or when non-degenerates are in their office, I'm
Yeah,
crawling around the woods, and that's not a lot of people out there, and
that's great. Yeah,
and October 15, um that's really cool. Very interesting. Like I said, I just was fascinated by the idea and by the option it gives for people to have another way to access land. And like I said, the more options you have, the more freedom you have to
that's right.
pick and hunt and move and do things and have this experience of a less touched wilderness or less touched woods. Because that's really, I mean, most hunters, that's the dream, right? And fishermen and everything is like,
Yeah, our homepage says our homepage says get outdoors without the crowds, and that's I mean at the look again the stage of life that I'm at, and I think you're in the same stage too. You got daughter and I've got little girls. Like there's just not a lot of time, and for me, where I'm at, I don't ever represent myself as some like badass hunter who's. I mean, everyone's a better hunter than me. I love it. I love to hunt and fish and be outdoors, but when I get a weekend to go outdoors, I just want to go relax, honestly. If I kill something awesome, that's icing on the cake. But for me, it's about being outdoors. And if I got a buddy or, whoever I'm with, just like spending time with them, being disconnected from the laptop, the phone, and enjoying nature and not like the idea of rolling up to a trailhead with 20 trucks is like, it kills the whole thing for me. It's just so stressful. I'm like, oh, God, now I got to deal with this.
yeah, right.
So
Man, I can't tell you how many times I've done that.
it's so deflating where you're just like, God, you woke up at 2 a.m. and you drive to the place and then there's like 15 trucks. Like, okay.
Dude, it happens so much where it's like, yeah, it's like, okay, well, I don't have enough plan Bs that
Yeah.
when I'm out there, it's like crap. Now I got to figure some out. Pull up on X. I'm trying to figure out
Yeah.
what's
Scrambling.
nearby.
Yeah. So, and it's funny because a lot of guys will use land trust and we're a great tool, especially when you go hunt other states. I mean, we're a great tool for the states, especially if you're in states where you have a ton of inventory. You can find your local spot. I have booked the same properties like 20 times in Bozeman, right? Because it's just like, so you get to the landowners, it's awesome. You get to know the properties. But especially if you're going to go travel, like if you wanted to go book something in Montana or Nebraska or something like that, you're traveling. You could book even a property like that, know you've got it to yourself, get to talk to the landowner, get a lay of the land. But hey, maybe there's some cool public spots around there. So you got your base camp and you can hunt that. And then you can still go out and, you know, hunt other stuff too.
Yeah, it gives you options.
But you've got your place secured. And like you don't have
Yeah,
to worry about
exactly.
that. Like the stress is gone. It's like less stressful.
And you can camp in some of these spots.
Yeah, so lodging is a good point. So our landowners are not required to have any sort of lodging, and there are definitely properties where there's no lodging capabilities. But a lot of them do have lodging capabilities. But for us, lodging could mean anything from they'll allow you to tent camp, they'll allow you to bring your camper trailer. They've got a bunkhouse, we got a big beautiful house, right? So it's the spans the gamut. So a lot of our land trust properties do have lodging capabilities in somewhere in that spectrum.
Got it. Yeah, that's interesting because part of the other part of it too is like even if you're going on public land, there's always the thing where it's like someone messes with your stuff or I've had bugs
Yeah.
stolen.
Oh,
Man, blows. I brought it out to what's the place called? Jim Edgar Panther Creek or whatever in Illinois. My brother-in-law. And it was years ago. It was like after Thanksgiving. Brought bikes out because it's a big chunk of land. We're like, we're gonna
yeah.
bike around. This will be
Yeah.
sweet. And took off the bike little trailer he had and left it and just didn't lock up our bikes like kind of stupidly, but and sure enough, we get back like an hour and a half later, and they're gone. It's like, what
That's
the
so lame.
heck?
People suck.
You know, who does that? And like, I always think like, there's some dude riding this bike like right now, and he's like, I stole this bike.
Yeah,
I feel really good about
I
yourself.
hope that he's thinking that.
Yeah.
I hope that he's.
And
Yeah.
my bike I didn't earn, other than I earned it by stealing it. Uh, yeah. So, you're what, 6 years in, over 5 years. What do you see, in 5 years? What do you see Land Trust looking like in 5 years?
I would say tens of millions of acres. We do get calls a lot from other countries. I actually was just talking to a guy from Canada today, and they have different rules and regulations and stuff.
Yeah.
But again, we're not just hunting. And I think last year, I think still 90+% of our bookings were hunting. We're seeing more and more fishing. I think farm and ranch experiences will continue to grow a lot. So, again, you can go to book a cattle branding with your family and see how that works. Or, down in Louisiana, you can book a crawfish tour with your kids. And there's a lot of other non-hunting activities on Land Trust. I think those are going to grow a bunch.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is like we hunters generally like to fish. We generally like to camp. We generally like to be outdoors and do other stuff too. So shed hunting, foraging, etc. So I think there's going to be a lot more activity growth outside of hunting. Um, and just look, 70% of the lower 48 is private. If we want to figure out land access, you got to figure it out in the private land. And I think we're primed to go and do that and open in a way that's easy and modern and safe and enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. It's just a lot easier than, man, if you don't have a site like this, even figuring out, we've been, again, one of the reasons I had been looking at you guys is we're planning this deer hunt this year, and we want to try something different than public land, but we don't want to go outfitted. And it's hard to figure out how do you lease land, and
It's also expensive. It's the wrong size transaction. Like I don't need 12 months. We're gonna go for a week or whatever, right? And
yeah, and it's like, even how do you find someone that's been vetted? And it's just, it led me to you guys again that set up the conversation. For everybody listening, it's not like this. I don't mean for this to be a commercial for Land Trust, but again, it's a thing I was looking into. I found you guys, and like I try to do on the podcast, is just I find stuff that's helpful and I share it.
yeah,
So
I appreciate it.
yeah, and I appreciate you coming on. I know you're tight on time, so for anybody interested, go check it out. I mean, landtrust.com. I'm literally looking at stuff today and liking a bunch of posts of dead deer on Field Notes.
Yeah, so it's like Instagram for Land Trust Land, but we show dead stuff, so it's not like Instagram, real Instagram where they like censor it and, shadow ban people who are posting it. And I would just say, like, to anyone, if this is like marginally interesting sounding to you, take 15 seconds, create a free Land Trust account. When you create that account, you just tell us like what you like to do. You like to hunt, you like to fish, etc. If you like to hunt, what species you like to hunt, what states you're interested in. And you can think about us almost like Zillow. Like, I don't know if you guys you've ever used Zillow, but you're kind of kicking around houses or looking at areas. You set in all your preferences, and then they just send you new listings that match your preferences. So essentially, like, Land Trust scouts for you 24/7, 365 for free.
Yeah.
So I would just say, like, if it's marginally interesting, just create a free account. Take 15 seconds, create a free account on Land Trust.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what I did, and then you get sucked into the is it doom scrolling?
Doom scroll.
Is that what that is? I don't know all the terms. Us being well, you're in your late 30s. I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah. Come on, man.
Anyways, Nick, yeah, appreciate you coming on, man. Everybody go check it out. We're gonna probably try to book something with you this year and make something happen. So follow.
Give us feedback. That's good.
Yeah,
give us feedback. We're real people. We're always trying to improve. There's 50 things I want to improve about our product and experience. So just like, please do use it. Give us feedback. Same to everyone who's listening. We pride ourselves on customer service. We develop product quickly. Like, we know we're not perfect. So yeah, love the feedback.
Awesome, man. Hey, appreciate it. Go check them out, everybody. Thanks for listening in.